This is Brendan. Before I get started, this video is going to basically go through the process of how I made this drawing right here. Just wanted to show you the finished result first. I keep planning on doing that with the with my videos from now on, because I know in my early sketch phases I just do like crazy sketches that humans can't even interpret. It's my own way. I know what I'm drawing. I can see it in my imagination. I just scribble things out, and it usually takes about 10 minutes of scribbling before you can actually see what it is. So yeah, I'll show you this. This is what I end up drawing, and so now that you know what it's going to be, well, number one, it gives you motivation to keep watching and see what's going to happen. 'Cause otherwise, you'll probably start off by thinking some kind of madman scribbling incoherent images or just nonsense onto a screen. So this will give you an idea of what it is, and you can see how I do it from scratch. It takes a little time before you can see where it comes to forming. I actually make out what I'm doing, but yeah, that's why I'll just show you this one here, and I hope you enjoy the show. See you in a bit. Show you the previous one I did, which did not have color. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting some weird window behavior here. So this is a previous one I did that came out, pretty good. People liked it, and it's for this a novel. It's for a story. So this is actually an illustration I'm doing for someone who's been working on a book, and they actually finished that book recently and will be working on publishing it and sharing it with friends and stuff like that. So my understanding of these characters in the book, because I haven't had time to read it fully yet, but we've been working on the character based on descriptions, is that we're far off in the future, and he has the ability to fly in a sort of Iron Man kind of style, where he has jet packs. I've seen him portrayed sometimes with jet propulsion coming out of his feet and hands, like Iron Man, and I've also, I know that there's a jetpack on his back because I've drawn that, as you can see in this image, and he's not one guy. This is sort of a troop. It's a design for an elite forces kind of guy. So yeah, that's basically what we've got. And this was the approved design. We went through variations. I had like, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 attempts with different sketches. This was the one that came out to be the final. The approved appearance of what this character will look like. And so I'm going to keep this one here not too far away from me while I'm working on the this new sketch here. And what I did in a lot of previous videos is to draw things without any time lapse, and I mean, it's not that it gets boring, it's that I can't accomplish that much in that way, because I'm not going to do anything any longer than an hour and upload it. It's not even worth, people just don't really want to sit and listen to that. Well, some people do, and I appreciate those people. I actually prefer longer videos, and I'm going to do some sketching here. I'm in sketch phase here, just to let you know. This layer that I'm working on now, before I start rambling on, this is the foreground with, I'd call it characters. It's going to be 3 of these guys, these troops, and this one here is going to be the background, actually. The one beneath it should not say background, I should say base, because that's just a base color I have back there. And I turn the opacity down a little bit on the background now so that I can focus on these foreground characters. And so, yeah, what I was saying is I can't really accomplish that much in an hour. I can't get to a completed piece. So for this video, I will... because there might be some disappointment if you see, for example, this last one I did here with the color and everything. I think it was the color that really brought it to life, but in the video I didn't even get that far. I only got to finishing the sketching, the line work phase, and then I did the color separately. I'm looking at his shoulders right now to see if I can get the right yeah. A part of this character's appearance, the requirements for his appearance is to have super masculine V kind of look to him, which means really big shoulders and a thin waist, to show that he is very healthy. These are like super soldiers. Super soldiers. Say that 10 times fast. Super soldiers. Okay. So super soldiers, and of course they're techie because it's the future and stuff like this. So You might not be able to make it out now. This is my imagination doing most of the work here. But these, there's three of these guys, and this one's closer to us here, and then he's a little bit further away, and then there's one off there, and they're kind of making, there's composition where they're flying up this in this direction, and I'm not sure if I portrayed that very well, but you'll see in a moment anyway. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I will do a little bit of time lapse in this one. I'm going to get up to a certain point where the sketch is right here while explaining some of what's going on, and then I'm going to put it in the time lapse while I fill in the details. Yeah, excuse me, I have a lot of stuttering today. I just jumped into this and wasn't even really prepared, and that's that. Okay. So I just want to get up to the point where you can make out what these guys are going through. I need to clear my throat and get a glass of water. I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, and so in a minute I'm going to go ahead and put this into time-lapse mode, even for actually for these sketches. I don't really see any reason to keep going through this, but to give you an overall of what to expect in this upcoming video here is I'm going to sketch these guys out. I'm going to do a complete drawing from the sketch mode here into the all the way up and finish with the coloring. What's going on in the background is these are buildings, and I will be getting back to them. Just to show you briefly here what was happening here. Yeah, that's 1 point perspective, and you can see basically what I did. Maybe I should start from over here. Everything's going up to that 1 point right up there. I also had I was using the guidelines previously. I got rid of them, but these ruler things, so it helps you to snap into place. Now I'm just going freehand with it. Let me get back to the paint tool. And so this is like one building here. I don't know if those windows came out spaced out so well. What if I could kind of do one line here? I'm going to have to cheat it because I can tell already they're not really lined up that well, but it's going to be in the background anyway, and probably will fade off and get they'll taper off into the distance. So what happens with these is these are like really big buildings because it's far in the future and maybe not even on Earth. So these are supposed to be like 700-story high buildings, and they just go off so far. This is like from a bird's eye view, and so we're looking down from up in this flying area because these guys are actually flying right here. And what happens is from this bird's eye view looking down, the buildings go so far that you can barely even see the ground. It's almost like you have to look a mile off into the distance to see where the buildings end and hit the ground, and where the street begins. And that would be this part here. This is the street coming down along there. So yeah, that's basically what it is. These are going to be buildings. I'll put in, like, I don't know, to make it look futuristic, I'll put in some kind of like billboards, and maybe there's not supposed to be flying cars, which makes it kind of hard. They're just really big buildings. There's no flying cars, but I have flying guys. So that's what I like about this illustration too. Is it's kind of a challenge actually, because a lot of things are not in your traditional stereotypical kind of sci-fi mode. There's no flying cars, but the buildings are super big, and yet I have to figure out how to portray that. And I mean, as usual, we want to be creative. Maybe I could have a sky bridge coming across here. Maybe these buildings connect and there's an arc or something. Just you got to get creative and make it look futuristic and interesting. Add a little architecture and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll be getting to that in a minute too. But first, I'm going to go into time lapse with these sketches right here, and so you can watch that, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so that probably took like 5 or 10 minutes. I'm assuming I can hopefully get that down to like 30 seconds or so in the time lapse. And this just gives me a rough outline here of these guys, what they look like. And I'm not sure if you can make it out yourself at this point. This is what he looks like. So if you come over here, you can see. I think you can make it out from the head here. This is his goggles here, right? That's where his eyes will be, his head, and this is his hands, and his leg is coming up. So he's flying basically towards us, and there's going to be some jet propulsion shooting off behind him, thrusting him towards us. And then you have a guy here. Again, he's flying up this way towards this guy. They're kind of doing a sort of a follow the leader thing here. So there's a little bit of flow to the page. If I were to do a big red line here, it's kind of like this guy is coming towards us, and he's going, and I said big, yeah, there we go. So he's going off he's coming towards us, and it goes back towards this guy, and then towards this guy over there. And this guy will be coming, zooming out towards us. So it'll be kind of a focal point right here. And that's that. I'm not sure if there's any better way to portray that, but for now, that's basically what I'm saying. We got these guys playing follow the leader through the air. And I'm going to go into the buildings. Let's just get rid of them for the meantime. I will go back to them and zoom in on their details. There's a lot of little anatomy things and this and that. With the buildings here, I guess while I'm working on them, I might as well bring the opacity up a bit. I'm not too worried about what's going on down here. I do want to keep that point right there so I don't lose it just yet. I might even... Yeah, I'm going to bring these rules in. I'll show you how these can be kind of handy. So now when I have these, whoops, yeah, bring this one down, and that'll allow me to just snap to it. It's hard to get this in the perfect spot when you're using this Wacom tablet. With a mouse, I could always get it right in there, and go down to about 10 pixels. So now I can just snap that line and make perfect lines that come up like this. So even if I just tap in this general area, it always seems to get it right on that, because the guidelines, they cause the pen to just snap into place where it's supposed to. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure where I'm going with this. I don't want all the buildings to be exactly the same. And also I want to have a little bit of unique architecture to it, so I'm just going to have to be creative and think of some stuff, basically. That's the official terminology for that. I'm going to have to think of stuff and make sure that I get all of my what do you call it, the perspective and stuff to look somewhat realistic. This was not good. Don't know why. You get this. It's not really falling into place where it belongs. I'm just going to do a little bit of this right now while I'm talking, and then I'll probably go off and into that speed demon mode again, which we call the what they call it, time lapse or something. So it gets really difficult with this one here, which as you can see, the spacing on these lines is bad and stuff, but I'm just not going to worry about that because there's so much. By the time this is all done, there's going to be so much other stuff going on, and I'm sure there's 101 much easier ways to get this job done, but I'm going to do this the hard way, because for me this is good enough. I grew up when we did not have Wacom tablets back then, I'll tell you that for sure, and even if they had, I don't think, when I was a kid, I don't think they had like Photoshop or anything. I know they had something. I remember when Photoshop first came out, they were talking about it in the news. Everybody was talking about it, and since I like to draw and stuff, people would talk with me about it a lot, and it was known that Adobe had hired a team of artists to work together with them to make Photoshop, and it was because all artists agreed that things like layers are the way to go when it comes to making art. And this is true, I've heard from I've taken a lot of art classes myself, but even people who have degrees and stuff. I do not have a degree in art, but I think I might have equivalent knowledge and experience to someone who has a degree. Don't quote me on that. I'm sure some people would like to argue the fact, but I don't know. I feel like I've done enough. So, um, yeah. The point was with the layers and stuff, if you go into painting classes and things like that, and even if you're doing simple, it's not even simpler, but like watercolor, I mean, it's not to be underestimated. It's a complex kind of art form. Um, yeah, and certainly not to be underestimated or taken lightly, but any kind of painting, any kind of art, even drawing, it's all about layers, in my opinion, or at least you can say if you choose to, accept layers in your way of thinking when you're making art, I think your life will be a lot more easier, if I can say that. Because you try to just draw everything statically as if you were doing one of those paint by number things, um, yeah, you're gonna have a bad day, like they say in that South Park meme. It's you're gonna have a bad time, or however they say it. It's just not that easy to do it like that. The best thing to do is start off with some kind of foundation, a sketch or something like this. Uh, and this is so important when you're doing natural mediums, such as actually painting on paper or canvas or something. Uh, Here in the digital world, I can of course just erase stuff as I need to, or I can manipulate things with the software, but you're not going to have that same privilege when you're doing this on paper. A mistake that you make could be somewhat permanent and cause you to want to start the whole thing over again, as opposed to just being able to get rid of some lines with an eraser, especially when you're talking paint. So what I do here, I'm just trying to make some designs so that you can feel the space. I don't want every one of these buildings to have the same kind of architecture with windows, in this grid-like form. But they got to have something, right? And so something that shows me that it's going off into the distance there. I also don't want to have to be responsible for drawing like bricks, thousands of bricks. Also, is that even plausible? What do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it even plausible to have bricks on a 700-story tall building? I don't know if that's something that would be cool or make sense or anything like that. So, just doing what I can here, trying to give it a little depth and perspective. I think this would work like this if I go about this far. Yeah. So I'm just going to do this pattern 1, 2, 3, 4 about every so many spaces here, and it should be getting a little smaller as it goes off into the distance, as says the rules of perspective. And so at that point, yeah, it's pretty much all the jibber jabber I have for the moment when it comes to this stuff. I'm just going to see if I can draw in a bunch of different different styles of architecture for these different buildings. Hopefully by the time I'm done, you should be able to see that more clearly with this 1-point perspective thing. And then then we'll come back and look at, put everything together and start to think how we're going to tie it together and color it. And then we'll get into the fun part, which is coloring. So I'll be right back after this time lapse. Okay, so that's that. Here's if I take away these guys, that's pretty much my background. There's a city, and again, it's supposed to look like we're up really high, looking down on the buildings. A simple one-point perspective. Didn't want to go crazy this time. So I I'm gonna take back what I said earlier about some of these ideas with where I could do some fancy architecture. I think that's kind of fancy enough the way that is. It's already a little bit mind-boggling or eye-boggling the way it looks there. And considering it's only supposed to be a background, it would be a waste of time at this particular point in time for me to to put so much time and effort into doing all these weird things. I might put some lighting, and it's supposed to be a lively city, so I might put some lighting and some different stuff like that in there. Some like what did you call them, like billboard signs and stuff, like flashing lights. If you think of what was the name of that movie? Was it called The Fifth Element? Something like that. It's a sophisticated city, but also kind of like lively, cultural, that kind of thing. So yeah, let me get some white out here. What I'm going to do here, because now we have these two layers. Well, first let me get rid of these lines. I have these two layers with these the characters and in the foreground, and then these lines for the buildings in the background, but it's hard to distinguish. I just want to put a layer in between them and just fill in with white so I can see these guys in the foreground a little bit better. And basically that's my sketch phase right there. I have what's already a pretty sophisticated sketch that shows these guys flying through this building, this what do you call it, like skyscraper building area. And yeah, I think it's, for me, and it is a problem that you have to deal with when you're making art or illustration, is like you yourself, you know what you're drawing, but are you portraying it in a way that other people can make it out? And that's where the struggle is. Isn't that what it's all about? If I could just think of what I wanted to think of, and that'd be the end of it. But that's not the point. The reason we started drawing is in hopes that we can get everybody else to understand what was on our mind. And we're trying to bridge that gap between our imagination and the third person or the other party who you want to put inside in your imagination and get them to see what you're seeing in your head. So it's it's a beautiful thing about art, I guess, is it's a process of sharing your imagination with other people the same way that we do with books and writing. It's another form of communication, and unfortunately in today's world, one that's not as highly regarded as it should be. It's things like comic books and cartoons are always put way down on the respect level when you compare them to other things such as like writing and literature and stuff. But you got to consider there's also a lot of smut out there when it comes to like writing. There's a lot of like bad stuff that is not parent approved. The same thing can happen with art. There's some stuff that parents should encourage their children to look at, and there's some stuff that is not so good. So you have to know how to differentiate between the two. And a lot of people have a hard time doing that. They don't know how to differentiate between what is a good like comic book and what is the dirty one that maybe you don't want your kids to look at. That's a problem. It's a problem that needs to be dealt with in society today, is to help people to understand that not all comic books are garbage, which are rot people's brains. As a matter of fact, I don't know any of them that are that bad. At least I haven't. I don't know. I personally don't read into that kind of stuff. So here we have these guys flying through the sky. Perfectly ordinary day in the future, and they might even be on a mission or something. But I have a lot of ideas for this, such as for the color, and this is where it's going to get fun. First off, I wanted to say that if we look at this area here, a lot of people would be worried when these lines go off in the distance. It starts to get dark because they're getting closer to each other until basically it just becomes a stream of black. In reality, what we would do to avoid that is, as we're going further off into the distance, the line should also get thinner. And as it gets far enough away that it really becomes a problem, you would probably just stop drawing because you can't even see that far at that point, or you would find other creative ways to articulate that. But what we're doing here, in reality, it doesn't matter because what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to fill a lot of this off with black or haze or something to just to show that it's so far off we can't even really see it anyway. And another reason is because I don't really need to draw in details that far away. I could zoom in, really and choose a tiny brush and do all these things, but nobody's even going to notice that by the time we zoom back and scale the image to be viewable through a normal viewport such as a web browser or something. So yeah, there's no need for that. I'm just going to go take a break here. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do next, just need a minute to think about it, and then we'll get into coloring. Be right back, hold on. Okay, so I'm going to jump in here now and start coloring, basically, I think is what I'm going to do. That's a plan. That's on my agenda. And well, at the moment I'm kind of seesawing between that idea or adding the shading. I guess it all just comes in to be the same thing. I definitely want to, at some point in time, I'm going to clean up these sketch lines into some kind of real lines or something like that, and yeah, something will happen there. But I guess it doesn't matter which one I do first. So let me go ahead and start with the color. I pretty much know he's got this color. Hold on, I need to bring up the other image for reference. Okay, and so here's this one here. See how on this one I have the there's a lot of black in there. It's part of what made it look cool. And that's really the only way I know how to say it. Just this picture kind of looks cool. It has that dark, mysterious kind of look to it. And that's probably going to happen here too. We're going to do some of that. Let me start off just with getting the base colors in. It's mostly just gray. What I'm trying to do is get a chromy kind of gray look to come out, and in order to achieve that you need multiple it's a metallic thing, so you need multiple shades of this gray and the other stuff. And then the other color you have there is the I think there's we talked about other colors before. I put some white. I made the space between his metal suit. I turned that into white. It was supposed to be something else, but I changed it. And then there's this what do you call that, reddish kind of thing that goes on here and there. And there's there's a lot of ways I can achieve that. I guess it's probably just something like this. I'm not quite sure. Let me see, something like this would that's about it. It's just a dark red, really. There's nothing fancy about it. And so we got that there, here. It comes out in several areas. And what I want to do, since it's big enough, is try to get the his glasses. I have all these little ideas that are popping up about like what I could do to make this cool. And one of the ideas was to have his let me look at what I'm doing here, is to have reflection in his glasses of the sky, and it could be like the night sky, for example, so you'd be able to see like stars or something reflecting. He's not that close, but I think he's close enough where we could make a little something happen there, and it'll be just one of those little details. I'm not sure if it'll even be noticeable. What else? Where do we need this red stuff? I'm doing this mostly for reference because well, that's another reason I was doing this drawing anyway, is I could have moved on to some other stuff we wanted to do. We need to draw some more buildings and all of these different things, but I wanted to do more of this, these Covey characters, because I don't really have, I haven't done enough of them, basically. And let me get back to that gray I was using, this one here. Yeah. So, whoops, I'm in erase mode. It's not good. Okay, so that's the foundation there. It's now that I have those colors on here, it should help me. I haven't drawn them from the back much either, which I'm not sure how important that is, but eventually we should know what their backs look like as well as their fronts. The closest we've gotten to that so far is just looking at these, the backpack. He has this jetpack thing on his back. I think another thing with the goggles here, his mask goggles, is that they might have a bit of a tint to them, kind of like those ski goggles or ski glasses. If you've seen them, they might have like some rainbow colors to them or something. I wanted to get a pair of those before, quite a few years ago, and I found them to be quite expensive considering what they were. They're just sunglasses. I mean, basically that's what these skiing glasses are, like Oakley's, or I don't know if Ray-Ban does that thing, but Oakley used to do that thing where they have like some kind of rainbow colors or something in the lenses there. Not sure how it works, but yeah, we talked about doing something like that with these guys, but maybe it would just be like a solid color, not the rainbow thing. So, but in this case, because I want to do that reflection thing, I'm not going to worry about that right now. And we have a lot of other stuff to worry about here anyway. Now, something that happened with the other image, why it has this interesting look to it, is because, and I'll just show you what I'm talking about. The way that the different lights, it has a bit of a glow to it, and that shows that he's reflective, and it also has a lot of different colors. If you look in there, you'll find some blue, there's some yellow reflecting off of him, and it shows light from different sources. So he has some light shining on the right side of him, and some light shining onto him from the left side. So that adds dynamics, basically, which can often be found in reality, and makes things a bit more attractive. That's definitely something we're going to want to do in this image as well, so that I can get, I can make it look good, basically. I don't know what I want to get out of it. Get some kind of special effects, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. This gray that I'm using ended up being the same color as the background, but that's okay, because the background is not going to stay that color. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and do that now. Background is going to be a lot darker in the distance and maybe get lighter as it comes towards us. So we can do something like this, if this works. Yeah, for now that'll help me at least help these guys to stand out a bit, so I can get their color. And I was imagining kind of a dark nighttime kind of feeling anyway. That's definitely what I'm going for. Not to say that it's nighttime, but you're between so many buildings, and I mean, maybe it is nighttime. I definitely want to do nighttime because I want to show the stars, if I can, reflecting off his goggles right here. It might, there's not so much space there to really make a big deal out of it, but it's just something I had in mind. And yeah, this area here, you got to think, even if it were daytime, with so many buildings standing up so high, they're going to be blocking out the sun from whatever direction it might be coming from. So the only kind of light that we'd really expect to see in here is light that's being produced, which would be, like city street lights or billboards and stuff like that. So that's something to keep in mind while I'm doing the color. And there's lights, since these guys have metallic shiny surfaces on their bodies, whatever lights we have in there should also, we should expect the colors of those lights to radiate and reflect off of the suits of these guys. See if I have the right colors in here. So for now I'm just filling in a base color, just the gray. And there's a lot to be considered with the lighting, and where it's going to be dark, where it's going to be light. But again, with this one, just to make things easier for the eye to understand, the main light source in this image is on the right hand side, and so having that one dominant light source is always a good idea too, because it gives you a base, it gives you a foundation that makes it easy for your eye to pick up the depth, the three-dimensional kind of feeling. Where is this guy? You can see very clearly here on the left side over here, there's a cast shadow that's coming out, and so that you really get the feeling of space there, and where the light is, where it's not. That's the light. That's what makes us see. It's all about light, how it reflects, how it bounces, and where there is light and where there isn't light. Technically speaking, if we saw in only black and white, we would still be able to make out space, and we'd be able to navigate and walk and stuff like that, no problem. Most important thing is that foundation of the light source and the lack thereof, which is the shading. So that's some important stuff to keep in mind. I'm going to go with the white gloves. I don't know if I mentioned this previously, but kind of one thing I liked about the light white gloves, and using white for the other areas, is that these characters are they're sort of like a police force. They're sort of not police force, but they're military, and their mission, as I know it, is pretty. You could say it's in the same genre of a police-minded kind of task force. These guys are on a mission, let's say, and they think they're doing the right thing. So you could even equate them with sort of like freedom fighters or something like this. So that's a part of my decision with that. I had to choose a color, and also I just think the white, it just came out well. The way, it just matches everything. It basically gave me a color palette that I was happy with, and so that's how that works. And this guy here gets his little red blotches. Let me see on the bottom part. Yeah, just on the top of his waistband here, there should be red as well. I'll add a little there, a little here, 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 and here. Right. So I don't know. Behind his head, should there be? I haven't seen it. This might be the first time we've seen the back of their heads, so I think I can live without it at the moment. I do like having it on the backpack, just that little line there, so that's okay. Alright, good enough. So we get the feeling that you have these three guys here. You can make out their bodies. So what I'm going to do now with that foundation, I'm going to go ahead, because this is going to take a good 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to clean up this line work. Basically all I'm going to do is take this, this is the line work here, and I'm going to turn the opacity down on that, and then I'm going to make a new layer and go over this this, what would you call it, just lumpy, sketchy line work, and try and make some cleaner, nice lines. And then after that we can go into more detail with the color on the guys, finish that up, and then we'll spend just about 5 or 10 minutes on the background, and we'll call it a day. And I'll post up the image somewhere where you can download it or have a look at it when I'm done. And so yeah, right now first I'll go into time lapse, and hope you can enjoy the show. Be right back. Okay, so what I have now is a slightly more cleaned up version of the line work, and as you can see, when you zoom in, it's still very rough, but that's that's that might end up just being my style. Actually, I'm not sure if I'm going to worry about that. There's another reason. There's a couple reasons. Actually, I want to go into detail about that. I might. I'm still experimenting with this thing here, this setup. What we have here is I got a Wacom tablet with the the pen, and I'm just drawing digitally here. It's kind of hard for me to do this stuff. I haven't been doing this since I was a kid. I've been drawing since I was young, and I've done that for many years. So drawing on a piece of paper for me is a totally different thing from this. There's a bit of an adjustment period. It is doable. You can get through, and if you're a pencil artist, whatever you call it, whether it be an airbrush artist, a painter, a pencil artist, I think you can break through onto this digital style of drawing. It's doable, but so it never really quite feels the same, and there's so many things to keep in consideration with that. You have to go back to some of the basics and realize what you have available to you. Well, when you have a piece of paper in front of you, or even a canvas, you can flip it around. If you look at even some artists like Salvador Dali, who was what do they call it, the surrealist artist, and kind of like him, he would have these giant paintings, and he would design or invent his own contraptions to be able to spin these giant paintings around, because he wanted to be able to paint upside down sometimes, not like hanging upside down obviously, but he wanted to get a different view on it. And this is something I've always done with paper and canvases and stuff, where I like to flip things around, move it around. I might even use a different hand sometimes. I'm predominantly left-handed. I can use my right hand, but sometimes I'll have both hands in there working on stuff. All these things that you just can't do when you go digital. You have different things that you can do, and so it's all about getting used to this new tool. And a lot of people will tell you you can pick up the Wacom if you already knew how to draw on paper. You can pick up this tablet and software and stuff within a few months. That's true, but I don't think you're gonna like really master it in any short amount of time. I feel like I'm still learning a lot every time I do this. It's part of the reason I enjoy it too. I like to learn new things, and always learn new things. So yeah, the point with that I'm getting at is, what am I going to do about these rough, sketchy lines that keep coming out? I'm not quite sure. I'm still working on it. They have some tools here in the GIMP. What I'm doing, I'm kind of struggling with like cheating too. I still want to keep myself fresh and alert, and use my my ability to draw freehand, or else I start to feel like, I don't know, what if some guy takes pride in his exercise routine, and do you want to invent a machine to do your push-ups for you? Not really, right? So, I mean, that's maybe a totally different example. When you're making art, you do want to be fast and efficient. Like I said earlier, the idea is to get something in your imagination across to a third party, or I don't know if it's second party, third party, however you want to say it. But yeah, just to get that job done. So I don't want to waste time, but I also enjoy the process. It's something I like to do. If I didn't like sitting here listening to music while sketching all this stuff out, if I didn't enjoy that time, I simply wouldn't do it. There'd be nothing in it for me. Even if it paid money, if I didn't like it, then I wouldn't do it, because I'd be miserable every day. So yeah, I'm trying to enjoy the process the same way that I always have, with this natural freehand way of just getting stuff done, and being able to take pride in my work after I look at it, which entails the whole process of doing this. So how can I do that and still utilize these tools? Well, basically I just answered all that. What you have to do is realize that this is still a challenge when you're using a digital medium. You do still need to you still need to I don't know how to say it. You still need to learn things. It's not like doing it for you. It is hard work to get this done. And even some of these great digital artists I see, they use like pictures, and they'll import pictures to their products, that their images that they're working on. They call it templates and textures and stuff. And even that, it's not necessarily a new thing. It's if you went to art school, you could see people they used to use cutouts from magazines and stuff and bring it into their painting, and they would call it textures. Whether or not it was done with the same way, the same manner of speaking that it's done now in the digital format, I don't know, but they did do stuff like that. You can even make collages and stuff and then paint over them. So it's all about getting that job done and getting it done in a way that you want it, that you feel satisfied with it. And I feel satisfied with these sketchy, bumpy lines, because by the time it's all said and done, if you look at that previous picture that I'd made of these characters, I'm happy with that. The person who I made it for is happy with it. People who I showed it to online, friends and family and random people, they all liked it. So I think we can all agree that there's nothing wrong with having some rough and sketchy lines sometimes. Maybe perfect linemanship is not my thing. It's not my style. I have a different kind of style. I like to, I'm good with colors, or I'm good with this, whatever it is. I'm not, I don't want to sit and go into detail about what I'm good about, what I'm good at, or what I'm not good at. It's just, yeah, you don't have to be, not everybody has to be the same. Not everybody has to achieve the same goals, stuff like that. So, yeah, it's just some random stuff I wanted to say, if only for my own sanity, maybe even. But what I'm going to do is, you see, I just clean this up here. Now I have that's pretty cool, right? Even if you zoom back and look at it, you got like a nice cartoony, we're almost getting like American style comic book. We're getting into that zone of starting to look like Batman, or Spider-Man or something, flying through a city. Some cleaner line work, fill in the spaces, and then we're going to take it the next step and really start to play with the color, which for me is the funnest part. I wish I could just jump to that sometimes. I need to get a coloring book, and maybe I should be a colorist, because obviously, as I've been saying here, my line work is never perfect. But yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this cleanup work that I'm doing now on not only the rest of these guys here. I'm also going to touch this guy up a bit more, and also on the buildings. I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to do any fancy gradients or shading or anything, but I'm going to put all of these base colors in, just like a very simple sort of, what you call like a coloring book fill-in for all of the buildings, the background, and all of these guys, and just clean up all that work. And I'm not even going to do that in time-lapse. I'm just going to do it off the off the scenes here, and I'll bring that back, and then we'll get into the fun part and finish it up. So I'll be right back. Okay, so here is what we have here is, as I said, you get the basic color, just one flat matte color for every area here, and what we're going to do now is look at how to separate the depth of things. And to be quite honest, I'm just winging it. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do at this point in time, but I'm going to put a layer in here, and one of the first assumptions I'm going to make is that we're going to need some shade all over the place. So let me get a brush here. Let me turn the opacity down a little bit on the brush itself and see what happens. I think the previous one I did was previous one I did was what was it, with a different software. I think I used Krita last time. I'm not sure. But yeah, what happens is, let me turn this opacity. Oh wait, do I want this opacity down or this one down? Anyway, it doesn't matter, on a different layer. Yeah, I want both of them down actually. What happens when you're using a Krita or any different software is you always get different results basically. Turn this one back up a little. Yeah. So what I'm assuming in this case, that should be universal, it doesn't really matter what software we're using, is that the distance is going to be darker, because like we were saying before, it's these buildings are going to block off the sun. And you could have all different types of things happen. You could have like a a sharp line suddenly happen right here because maybe there's a building on the other side that's blocking out the light just up to that point right there, right? But and over here we could have different things happening. You could have a cutoff there. You might have an angle up here with suddenly a building makes some, yeah, because of this, you know what, I want full opacity on this. Yeah. Maybe there's a building that just, you know, it's making a shadow like that right there. Something like this happens. So, and this is, you know, this is all normal stuff. That's just how light works. So that's going to happen. I have something here. And that's just going to help to push back that bottom lower area there for starters. It's going to be, you know, one little thing we can do to separate the foreground from the background. And so you can see when I do that already, these front characters, they start popping out. I'll do one of these. If I make the brush a lot bigger, I can like get a softer edge on it. Yeah, kind of helps a little. Also on these sides of the buildings, let me see if I can get this right. On the sides of the buildings here, I want the shade to come up a little bit more. And granted, I believe it's even supposed to be nighttime. I mean, that was my original idea, so some of these things I'm doing might not even be really all that practical or logical, but I'm just going to do it how I do it at first. Just do it in some way that I know works visually, and then I'll think about being logical later, because that's not really my thing. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. And of course there's always going to be light bouncing around in all different directions anyway, so you can't be perfect. But that helps a lot to just push that back like that. That was kind of useful. This one here, use an eraser. Yeah, I just didn't like that spot. And I don't like this here. Okay. So with that in place, I feel happy with that. If you come back anyway and look at it, I can always go back and nitpick on it, but if you zoom out, you can still get the general feeling of things. Now with these guys, what am I going to do? There's all different types of stuff I could do with this foreground color here. I'm not going to nitpick. I'm not going to make an extra layer for this. And even with this, the reason I want a separate background layer for this one here is so I can play with it. I'm not sure how dark I'm going to go with this. So, you know, I might get lighter with that, darker. If I make it all solid, then I'd have to color these in again and redo a lot of that. But for these guys, in this part here, I can just, whoops, I went back too many steps. Yeah, for these guys here, I can just go in and you know, mess with it. I do kind of wish I was doing this part in Krita, because this, I don't know what it is with the GIMP. I still got to play with it some more. The pressure opacity isn't that good. It gets a little blotchy. See, there's no way that's going to work. I'm not satisfied with that at all. What I can do, go back a few steps. There's just so many things. Maybe because of this, I will do another layer. That'll help to give me one flat color. Right, make this opacity full. Yeah, one thing with Krita, the thing is, I feel much more comfortable when I'm painting with Krita. It has much more natural feeling to it. It just gives me the colors the way I expect them to come out. I guess it's from so much, you know, experience with the traditional method of painting with, like, you know, markers, pens, and canvases and whatever. But it's lacking so much at the moment. I don't want to, you know, insult the people who are working so hard to make Krita good software. It is good, and I switched to it immediately when I want to do a lot of painting stuff. But there's a lot of things that are missing. For one, it's the ability to make quick lines like this, quick straight lines. I can do that with a GIMP so easily. They don't have that, and I read, you know, through their like forums and stuff, a lot of people were talking about that, and that the absence of that feature is a pretty big, you know, it's a pretty big thing. A lot of people want to do that. You have to go completely over to a line tool to start drawing lines, and it doesn't even support that feature where you can just, you know, hop from line to line like that. You have to keep just drawing one at a time. It really slows you down. And so that's like one thing. Another thing is when I get into doing comics, It doesn't, the text, I'm not going to say it doesn't have text support. You can do text, you can do, text with different fonts, but it's just kind of weird. I don't even want to go into detail. It's just, I'm just going to use that terminology. It's weird. That's the end of it. It's not so convenient. I think they're still working on it. It's just such a new software. I didn't even know it existed. Suddenly I saw it somewhere. I tried it out and I was like, wow, that's cool. It's a really good software. But maybe they're still working out the kinks because it's new. And of course, since it's free, you can't really complain. Beggars can't be choosers. If you want to spend that $1,000 and buy Adobe Photoshop, then you can do that. I'm not going there. I would like to go there, but this particular work week is not the one where I'm going to be doing that. And even even if I had tons of money, I just don't know if ethically, if I want to put that much money into a software. I actually make software myself, and I don't really see the need for it. When you have millions of people relying upon your software as the norm, as the standard, and that means millions of people. Let's see, take $2 from each one of them. I think that would be enough, but no, they sell that software for thousands of dollars. I guess a lot of people don't really pay for it too. That's the other thing. They make the business professionals pay for it extra because a lot of people just don't pay. I guess they have like the 30-day trial thing, and you can just keep renewing your trial. A lot of people probably do that, and you probably have also people who just get it free somehow. I don't know how that works, and I'm happy I don't know about that. There was a day when I did. I'll tell openly. I can openly admit that I downloaded like free software and MP3s and stuff because back when I was doing that, it wasn't even really a law. They had a program called Napster, and people just downloaded MP3s all day long without any law. And then Napster went to court, and that's when it became an issue. Ever since that point in time, I wasn't surprised at all. I was just waiting for that to happen. But while it wasn't technically illegal, I didn't have any reason not to. Everybody else was doing it, and I no longer have any of those files, so no harm done. I think I got into it just when that happened too, just when that started. There was like I don't know, it was like my roommate was telling me, oh, you gotta try Napster, you can get all the songs that you want for free. And I was like, and we didn't know back then, we didn't know whether or not it was going to be illegal because it was this new thing like file sharing. Technically it's my file on my computer. How am I supposed to know? It really was a questionable thing. It's not like I'm trying to be cheeky about it and make excuses. It really was just a gray zone back then. But of course, once the government comes out and makes a law and says it's hereby illegal, well, now there's nothing you can do about that, right? But yeah, it was like I had bad luck, if you consider that luck. As soon as I started using it, it was just about that. I think I'd used the Napster software for like a month, and that's when when you turned it on, all of a sudden it just didn't work anymore, and all the songs and all the files were gone. So that was that. Didn't last very long. Nowadays it's completely different. I should even be nervous just talking about this. They search your computer. Well, the thing is, they can go ahead and search my computer. They won't find anything because I don't have anything. I stopped that. Once it became illegal, I just stopped. That's how I am. I don't want to risk getting in trouble. Okay, so now you can see we have some depth and space here, like I was saying with the other image. It's good to have one primary light source from one direction, and we can play with it. We can do all different types of things, and take it from there. Now I really want these guys in the foreground to pop out like heavily. So let's see what happens if I just throw a whole layer of black on this. Let's see. It'll take a second or two. This is like 4,000 pixels wide. Just turn the transparency down on that a bit, or a lot. Yeah, just leave that there. Maybe, is it too dark? I kind of like it. Like that. We could do that. and then add some light in different spots to see what happens. Yeah, I'll just leave that like that for now. At least it'll help me to focus on these guys in the foreground. And I'll be right back. Okay, so in addition to other problems, I'm running out of disk space. So I might have to, you know what I might do is, well, definitely going to clean up some disk space. And then I'm going to, why is that like that? Oh, okay, that's right. Then I'm going to, I don't know if I might have to split these videos into two. Because I'm looking at like, you know, I got like 12 to 15 separated videos now, because some of them I'm going to time-lapse. That's why I always stop before I do a time-lapse. Anyway, not to waste any more time, that's more disk space we're talking here. This stuff here, there's so much stuff to consider. This is like everything I did up to this point is fundamentals. This is the, you know, the basis. Now we have something where we can start to make a piece of art. This is just, you know, that was fill in the colors, sketching, drawing, blah, 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 on and on. And now let's get into the fun part. In future videos, I might just start off with something like this and get right into the fun, because there's really, you know, watching from scratch, I have tons of videos about the foundation, fundamentals and stuff, so I'm not sure if we need that every time. There's, what am I going to do about colors? These guys, number one, they're flying. There's a lot of things to be considered here. This one here, the foreground color is, you know, I'm okay with the way this shade. I don't want to have too many layers here, so I'm going to go ahead and merge that one down. And I also did that with this, the background shade, where I put a full layer of shade and also the detail of the shade. I merged them together in one thing, because if you get too many layers, at least in this software, it becomes a problem. The less layers, the better, because you get slowed down otherwise. It takes up too much RAM, I guess, or something. And so, yeah, some things that are wrong here is like these wobbly edges, because these are supposed to be machine components. Unless they've been beaten up in battle, those should all be straight edges. I'm not worrying about any of these things at the moment. What I'm going to do is show that they're flying, first of all. Why are these guys just like hovering in space? So I need something for that. I'm going to temporarily add a layer, because this one needs to be transparent, where there's going to be some, there's going to be something represented. They have like jet propulsion behind them, right? So I don't know. Let's start off by assuming it's like a rocket color. We could even get crazy and use like a blue or something, but traditionally I think we'd have something like a yellow. And I'm going to like the yellow because yellow worked out well on on the other one. Yeah, I'll just turn the opacity down on this a bit. Yellow, I'm going to assume it's coming from the bottom of their feet, like this. So just a little bit of it, and maybe out of his hands, like that. Right. And the same thing's going to happen down here. It kind of looks like they're, you know, like flip-flopping around. It looks, he's got his legs in different positions and stuff. But if you actually imagine really trying to fly and propel yourself with this type of propulsion, just things coming out of your hands and feet, I think that's actually what would happen. I think you'd get a lot of random, you know, because you constantly have forces coming out of both feet and both hands, so you have to constantly adjust their positions to make sure that things are going in the direction that they should be. So, I mean, I'm just trying to be realistic. There's that. We want to get as white as we possibly can with this, and normally I don't really want to keep adding layers like this, but I think in this case I'm going to have to until I get it down right. And what we're trying to do here is add a bit of a glow to it, just soften it up with this stuff. This type of propulsion energy is like, much like, what was I going to say, electricity and other things like this. It's based on waves, kind of like frequencies and waves. So you can never say, you can't say logically in any perfect way exactly where the light is going to be hitting, or how, you know, strong it's going to be glowing. Maybe this one over here is glowing really bright and that one's just glowing softly, because it'll be like waves pulsating kind of bursts of energy. So yeah, I think we nailed it with that one right there. That brought these guys out of that background a lot, and you can see they got something on their hands and feet there that's pushing them forward. I'm happy with that, and I'm just gonna go ahead and solidify that by merging this down. Um, Now that we've got that done, I want to go in front of them. I might even, can I do this? Yeah, I can do this now. I'm confident enough. I'm going to merge down all this foreground color, and we need to go over some of the foreground color here, because the energy is not just in the back behind them. The light is going to be bouncing all over the place basically, and it'll also, like, be bouncing off the front of their hands and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, I might even put this up here. Yeah, I might start to forget about these black lines. I don't want everything to be behind them. I want, how to say, like, these are the black lines. I'm actually drawing over top of them now with opacity. You see, I could actually cover that foreground black line, and that's what I want to do, because, well, I just like it like that. I don't know why. It's hard to say why sometimes. It's just how it is. We have reflective light bouncing from all these, well, the light, the energy coming out of their hands. So you should see it, little spots like here, here, there. And since there's, he's got 4 stems here where it's coming out of, he's got his 2 hands have this light, these light bursts coming out, and also 2 feet. So it could be bouncing all over the place. And what's good about that, another reason I like the yellow, whereas I could have chose blue for the light, and I might try blue in the future. I could experiment with it still, but the idea was that it gave me a really nice chrome look. When when this gets done, you might be able to see what I'm talking about. See now, realistically, is it really going to hit the top of his head here? I kind of feel like no is the answer to that, but because things can just be bouncing all over the place, it really doesn't matter. I'm just going to put it where I feel like it belongs. I want it to be evenly distributed, is kind of what I'm looking for. And like I said, some spots might just suddenly randomly be a lot more brighter than others. You can't judge anything perfectly here. Okay, so we definitely need a lot more smoothness in these areas, some of these areas here. Since this last layer I just did is above the black lines, I have to keep it there, but I can go down to this background layer here. And what I'm going to do now, I'll go back, because like I said, I'm running at a file space and all this stuff. I'm just going to go in, what do you call it, the time-lapse thing here, and just show you how I do the coloring. It's pretty easy to figure out. I think even in time-lapse, you don't really need description for it. Just something you can watch of, where I do it. And I will go into more detail about that in a different video, but for this one, let me just go into time-lapse and see you back in a minute. Okay, here's the near final product, and some notes on this. Usually, one important thing to keep in mind is people are going to spend more time looking at something that's closer, or whatever the main, the focal point of the image is, which in this case is obviously this guy here. If I were to draw the detail on this dude who's like halfway, far off, or even the last guy there, it'd really be weird, right? If the guy who was closest to you had the least detail, and these far off, what do you call them? Not like side characters, but they're not the focal point here. Normally, whatever is closer to you has more detail, and that saves a lot of work too, because the first impression is going to be one of the most important things. And instead of worrying about, for example, in the architecture here, instead of worrying about each and every single window, how about focusing on some of the closer ones, and as they taper off, just don't worry about it that much. It just works out better that way in a lot of cases. Some of the things to point out on this guy here, if you zoom in, is that I threw in a bunch of random colors that could be anything. Reflecting, there's a lot of green around these areas here that could have been grass reflecting off the ground. It could be the nearby building or lights or something. There's a dash of purple over here. I'm assuming that he's looking at the like a night sky with galaxies and stars and stuff. The fact of the matter is, his glasses, in this case, his goggles, aren't really that, we're not really zoomed in close enough, because the full image will be like back here, so there's not really enough space to get that out. I mean, technically there is, but I'm doing this kind of rough. This is about as detailed as I can get. I just can't get enough finesse out of this pen with this this Wacom and the GIMP. So this is what I get. I'm happy with the quality here. I don't have, it's just a little rough, has a certain kind of rough edge to it, but I don't mind it. Yeah, it gets a little muddy too in some cases because of the way I blend. But again, I'm actually kind of happy with that result. It's not to say I like it muddy, but it has its own little style to it, which is okay. Yeah, it's just good to throw in random colors like that, especially when you're dealing with reflective surfaces such as this metallic armor that he has on. And then on the architecture and stuff, I didn't want to go crazy with it because it's really time consuming. If I did want to really turn this into like a finished piece, I should really zoom in there and work on some more like windows and lights reflecting and stuff. As far as the distance goes here, the where the buildings go off into the street, kind of grayed that out. I tried it with black at first, didn't really work, but I like with a dark gray, that kind of work. Because if you go black, it's kind of like saying there's no lights down there, or it's going off into some dark abyss, which is not really what we wanted to portray. It's just going off into far off distance that we can't see. So it shouldn't be like some black, utter dark place. There could be lights down there for all we know, but it's far away enough that we can't see it. And that helped a lot with the depth and perspective on the buildings here too, because now we can't we don't have to be bothered by little minutia details of what they look like off in the way off in the distance. So yeah, that's about it. That one here. If I decide to do any more work on it, I'll post it up on my website. I think I'm gonna keep it like this for now. I'm kind of okay. There's a couple things I would have changed. Maybe made his head a little smaller to change the make his body look bigger. That's just minor details. Same thing goes with these guys. I could have changed a thing or two about the way they look, but since there's so much color and action going on, I think little things like that don't really make a big deal. I wasn't necessarily going for a masterpiece here or anything, so it was just for fun. And I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope this one doesn't end up too long. I barely have any disk space left. And if you're new, it's your first time watching, and if you made it all the way to the end here, thank you very much. Please hit the like button and subscribe, because I'll be making a lot more. Hopefully the videos will get better and more concise as time goes on. I know I tend to babble a lot. Anyway, see you next time. Bye.